Hey everybody, Ian here. This is just a quick video to show how I make my survival bracelets. This is a single weave. I think it's called a Cobra weave. I'm not 100% sure of that. And then this here is a double. So essentially twice as much cord. So I built a jig for doing this. Makes it a lot easier. There's a tie down point at the top and then another one at the bottom here, and this is adjustable. There's a bolt and a nut down here so I can slide this back and forth, and I just marked out measurements in inches, and then I can write notes about like different lengths and how much cord. For instance, for me to do a single weave for me is 8.5 feet of cord, and then a double is about 19. And it's kind of weird because you can measure your wrist, the circumference of your wrist, but you actually have to add a little bit more on in order to accommodate the space that gets taken up by the cord itself as you're weaving it. So you have to add on, and there's a little bit of trial and error involved, which is why I have notes, so that I don't have to like rewrap something twice because I made it too big or I made it too small. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I do this. Okay, so here's my cord. I've already cut it to length, and I've melted the ends here, and once they started to melt, I kind of squished them so they were a little flatter so that they'd fit through the slots a little easier. And I just melted it so it wouldn't unravel while I was actually weaving this. So first thing you want to do is put the thread through the slot in one end, one clip there. And you're making a loop, and then you want to pass the cord back through that loop and pull it tight. And you just want to make sure that's nice and snug. Okay, and then you just take the other ends and thread them through this slot. And bring them down. Alright, so there we go. Now this is going to be a single weave versus a double. For a double weave, you'd want to get bigger clips than these. I think these are like 5/8 inch clips maybe, and then they sell large ones. This here is a larger clip, so obviously you can see the difference, and it just works better for a double weave, having this larger clip versus a smaller clip. Okay, so once you've got it to this point, you're just going to start, and you're using the same knot throughout this whole process. So kind of separate them out. You've got two lines here, and which one is, you bring one across, you have a loop, you take the other thread, bring it over top, then go down behind everything, come back up through the loop, and once you do that, you go ahead and you pull it tight. You want to make sure it's pretty snug. Now you're just repeating this knot over and over and over again, and so you replicate to the opposite side. So now I have a loop here, go down, under, come back, up through, pull it tight. And what you'll see is after the third or fourth knot, you'll have a pretty simple pattern that's repeating, and it makes it easy to keep track of what's going on. So loop, over, under, back up through, pull it tight. Loop, over, under, back up through, pull it tight. And if you screw this up somehow, if you're coming down and you forget which side you're going to, and you do the same loop again from the same side, your knot's going to look weird. Right, so you'll be able to tell right away that you did something wrong. And you have visual cue as to which side you're putting the loop to. So you see there's an up and then a down and then an up, right? So whichever side the up's on, that's the side the loop goes to. You come back down and through and up, and you just repeat this over and over again, and it's pretty straightforward. Just keep making sure it's tight. Now I'm using plastic clips for these bracelets. Some people just leave it free and then tie knots in the end. So they put it on their wrist and then they tie a knot to hold it in place. Some people use anchor bolts. I've seen carabiners used, and these are all, they're perfectly fine. I actually prefer the plastic for two reasons. The first reason is it's really easy to hook and unhook one-handed. There's not a lot of effort there. It's just a little clip, so you pop the clip to take it off, and then it just snaps back in place when you're putting it together. So it makes it really simple. And the other reason is more of like a safety kind of thing. This is paracord. It's rated at like 550 pounds. It's pretty strong. It's not going to break easily. You're not going to just like snap this cord. Same holds true for an anchor bolt, a carabiner. If you're a good knot tire, you tie a knot, it's not going to come undone. So plastic, on the other hand, breaks, and the clips, they're pretty strong. They're sturdy. You're not gonna, it's not gonna just undo itself. But if you get caught in a situation where your bracelet gets snagged on something, the last thing you want is for the bracelet not to give, right? Because say you fall somewhere or you snag it on something and you go down. If your bracelet's not going to break, what is going to break? What if you snag your wrist on an something sticking out, a protruding piece of steel, or maybe like a really stout branch if you're in the woods or something? So what's going to give? Bracelet with an anchor bolt or a really well tied knot is not going to give before your wrist does, or your shoulder, or your elbow. So they call these survival bracelets. They give you the ability to have some cord with you out in the woods or in your day-to-day life. But if you dislocate your shoulder because your bracelet's stronger than your arm, it's not very useful, is it? So that's why I have the clips, because you can, if it pulls hard enough, it will pop, and it will pop long before your shoulder or your wrist or your elbow. You're not going to tear muscles or something like that. And if you're in a situation where you may need to survive, you're better off without 8 feet of rope and an intact arm versus 8 feet of rope and a busted up shoulder. Although I guess you could make a sling with the cord, so there's that. But anyway, that's why I use the plastic. Alright, so once the bracelet's done, we want to go ahead and just cut off the ends as close to the bracelet as you can. Now I prefer using a lighter for this part, but I couldn't find one, which is strange. So anyway, the nice thing about the lighter is you can use the edge of the lighter for this next part. So you heat this up and then squish it down. So what happens is it's melted now. It's a little hard, and it's not going to untie, not going to unravel as easily as it would if you didn't do this step. So just heat it up, get it to start melting, and then push it out, and make sure your flame goes out. Shit. Alright, so that's it. Survival bracelet.